I was on a solo road trip, driving from the East Coast all the way to the West. It was supposed to be a fun adventure, a chance to clear my head and see the country. But on the third day, things took a dark turn. I entered a stretch of highway that was under heavy construction. Miles of orange cones and flashing lights. My GPS, glowing bright in the dim cabin, suddenly directed me to exit the highway. It told me to take a detour along a small, one-lane road running parallel to the interstate. I remember finding it strange that every other car on the highway seemed to ignore this exit. They all stayed on the main road. But I trusted the map. I figured maybe they were just heading somewhere else. Or maybe I knew a shortcut they didn't. It was around 7 p.m. The sun had completely set, and the first snow of winter began to fall. As I drove deeper onto this small road, the world seemed to disappear behind me. No streetlights, no houses, just my high beams cutting through the swirling white snow. The further I went, the more isolated I felt. The road was narrow, winding, and dangerously quiet. After an hour of absolute nothingness, I finally saw a cluster of lights in the distance, a town. But as I got closer, relief quickly turned to unease. This wasn't a normal town. It looked dead. Maybe 15 buildings in total, all old, run down, and seemingly abandoned. Most windows were boarded up. The streetlights flickered with a dying yellow buzz. I was running on fumes, so I pulled into the only place that looked open, a gas station at the edge of town. It was the only building with a light on. Oddly, there was another car there, a gray SUV, parked at the pump opposite mine. I looked inside as I got out to fill my tank. The SUV was packed, suitcases, travel pillows, wrappers on the dashboard. It looked like a family road trip vehicle, but nobody was inside, and nobody was outside. The station building was dark and locked. No attendant, no movement. It looked like the driver had just vanished in the middle of filling up their car. The silence was heavy. The only sound was the wind howling through the old canopy, and the slow, rhythmic click, click, click of the gas pump. It was pumping agonizingly slow, like the machine itself was dying.
I stood there, shivering in the cold, watching the numbers on the pump crawl upward. I had this sinking feeling in my gut that I shouldn't be here. And then the silence broke. A scream, a male voice yelling from the pitch-black darkness beyond the station lights. "Help me!" I jumped, slamming my shoulder against the car. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stared into the void, waiting. Then it came again, louder. "Somebody help, please!" But this time, my gut twisted. There was something wrong about the voice. It didn't sound like raw panic. It sounded rhythmic. It sounded practiced. And worst of all, it was getting closer, rapidly. I stepped back toward my driver's door, my hand hovering over the handle. That's when I saw it. Movement. Not from the direction of the screaming voice, but from the side. In the deep shadows of the gas station building, I saw figures, 2, maybe 3 men, crouching low, creeping through the tall grass. They weren't running to help the screamer. They were positioning themselves to surround me. The scream was just a distraction. Adrenaline flooded my veins. I didn't wait to hang up the nozzle. I ripped it out of the teak, gasoline spilling onto the concrete, threw it on the ground, and dove into the driver's seat. As I slammed the door and locked it, the shadows sprinted. They rushed the car, fully emerging from the dark. I saw their faces for a split second, cold, determined. I threw the car into drive and floored it. My tires spun on the slick, snowy pavement before finally gripping. I sped out of that town, fishtailing onto the road, leaving the gray SUV behind in the dark. I drove for hours without stopping. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I didn't stop until I crossed state lines and found a brightly lit truck stop full of people. But to this day, I can't stop thinking about that gray SUV, the luggage in the back, the empty seats. Was the family inside that car tricked by the same scream? Did they run into the darkness to help, only to be taken by the men hiding in the shadows? And when I escaped, was I leaving them behind? Or was that empty car just a trophy, left there to make the next traveler feel safe enough to stop? I never found out, and I never took a detour ever again. Last November, I took a road trip back to my family's ranch for Thanksgiving. It's a 20-hour drive, mostly through open fields and vast untouched forests. It gets painfully boring. Toward the end of my second day, around 8 p.m., I merged off the main highway onto a lonely side road. I was exhausted. I needed to sleep. I eventually found a small gas station in the middle of nowhere. It looked ancient, no other cars, no houses in the distance, just darkness. I walked inside to ask the attendant if I could park in their lot for a few hours. The guy was older, maybe 50. He looked surprised to see anyone. He told me they were closing in 15 minutes. Then he gave me a look I'll never forget. He said, "If you are comfortable staying at this empty place overnight, then I don't mind." The way he said it, "if you are comfortable," sent a chill down my spine. It sounded like a warning, like he knew something I didn't. But being tired and stubborn, I thanked him, went back to my car, reclined the seat, and set an alarm for 3 a.m.
I dozed off, but sometime later, I woke up, not to my alarm, but to the sound of tires crunching slowly on the gravel outside. I opened my eyes, my heart stopped. Right beside my car, facing me, was a dark pickup truck. Its headlights were off, the engine was off. It was just a black silhouette, sitting there in the pitch black, facing my windshield. Why would a truck pull into a closed gas station, turn off all its lights, and just sit there? I couldn't see the driver, but the truck was facing me. I felt like whoever was inside was watching me sleep. My instincts screamed at me, "Leave, now." I didn't wait. I slowly sat up, turned the key, and drove out of there as fast as I could without looking back. Getting back on the road made me feel a little safer. I thought I was paranoid, but I barely got a quarter mile away when it happened. Thump! My car hit something massive in the middle of the gravel road. It sounded bad. I slammed on the brakes and pulled over. I looked in my rearview mirror, but it was too dark. I put the car in park and stepped out into the cold wind. I walked back to see what I had hit. It looked like a large duffel bag, but huge. Honestly, it looked like a body bag. I was confused. Why was this lying in the middle of the road? I took a step toward it, but before I could get close, I heard a sound that made my blood run cold. The roar of an engine. I looked up. From the darkness back at the gas station, headlights flared to life. It was the truck, and it was coming for me. I didn't think. I ran. I scrambled back to my car and threw myself inside just as the truck screeched toward me. It didn't slow down. It sped right past the object in the road, swerved around it, and slammed on its brakes right behind my bumper. It blocked me in. The doors of the truck flew open. 2 men jumped out. I slammed my car into drive and floored it. My tires kicked up gravel as I peeled away, my hands shaking so hard I could barely hold the steering wheel. I tried to call 911, dialing with trembling fingers, but every time it connected, the line dropped, no signal. I drove like a maniac for 45 minutes until I finally hit a main road with streetlights. The truck didn't follow me that far. They gave up once I escaped their trap. I called the police when I reached the next town. They went out to look, but they found nothing. No truck, no bag in the road. But I know what happened. That bag wasn't lost luggage, it was bait. They placed it there, knowing I would hit it, knowing I would get out to check. In that dark truck, sitting at the gas station with its lights off, they weren't resting. They were waiting for the sound of the crash. If I hadn't run back to my car the second I saw those headlights, I don't think I would be here telling this story. I was 23, living out of a small van, moving my life to the West Coast. It was my first time doing the whole van life thing. I decided to save money by sleeping at rest stops instead of hotels. Around midnight, I found one, but this wasn't a normal rest stop. It was tucked away down a long, winding exit ramp, surrounded by dense, towering forest. It was empty, completely empty. No truckers, no other cars, just me, in the trees. It felt wrong, isolated, but I was exhausted. I parked in the darkest corner, hung up my curtains to block the view, and fell asleep on the mattress in the back. I told myself I was just being paranoid. I was wrong. At 3 a.m., I woke up. I didn't know why at first. The forest was silent, but then I heard it, whispering. Right outside the thin metal walls of my van, 2 male voices. I froze in my bed. My heart started pounding against the mattress. I crept to the side window and peeled back the curtain just an inch. My breath caught in my throat. A face. A man was standing right there, pressing his face against the gam, staring directly into the sliver of open curtain. We locked eyes. He didn't look away. He didn't run. He just smiled and ducked out of sight. I yanked the curtain shut and scrambled backward. The whispering outside stopped. They knew I was awake. Terrified, I scrambled over my boxes into the driver's seat. I didn't care about the curtains. I turned the key and gunned it. I sped out of the parking spot, desperate to get back to the highway. But as I started climbing the on-ramp, the van lurched. The engine roared. But I wasn't moving fast. A terrible grinding noise came from the back right wheel. Thump, thump, thump. A flat tire. I was stuck on the incline. The heavy van wouldn't pull its own weight up the hill. I was trapped halfway up the ramp, surrounded by the dark woods. Then a knock on my window. Knock, knock, knock. I looked. It was the man from the window. He was standing there, calm, smiling. "Hey there," he said. "Looks like you have some trouble. I can change that tire for you." My blood ran cold. He hadn't driven up. He had walked up. He had been chasing the van on foot. "I called the police," I yelled, holding up my phone. His smile vanished instantly. He tried the door handle, locked. He banged on the glass with his fist. "You don't need police. Open the door. Let me help you." I shifted into reverse. I knew if I let him in, or if I got out, the second voice I heard in the woods would come for me. I let off the brake and backed the van down the ramp. The rim ground sparks against the pavement. The man jogged alongside, hitting the window, trying to break it. Once I hit the flat ground of the parking lot, I gathered enough momentum to sprint forward, pushing the engine to its limit. I drove on the rim, the van shaking violently, until I finally merged onto the highway. I didn't stop until I saw blue lights. The tire had been slashed, cleanly, with a knife. They wanted me stranded. They wanted me to open that door. And the scariest part, the man looked so normal, like a helpful stranger. Right until the moment he realized I wasn't going to be a victim. My girlfriend and I were driving cross-country last summer. We stopped at a busy truck stop around 8 p.m. for snacks. When we left, I noticed a beat-up pickup truck pulling out right behind us. At first, it seemed normal, but after an hour on the highway, he was still there. He was matching my speed perfectly. If I changed lanes, he changed lanes. If I slowed down, he slowed down. He never passed. He just stayed right there, in my blind spot. I started to get a bad feeling. I told my girlfriend, "That guy has been following us for 50 miles. She told me I was imagining things, but I wasn't. Then the worst possible thing happened. Our phones went dead. No signal, no GPS. The map screen just spun in circles. We were confused, and that truck was still right behind us. Suddenly, I saw a bright orange construction sign on the side of the road. Detour ahead. Desperate for directions, and thinking this was the official route, I took the exit, and of course, the truck followed. The detour led us off the main highway onto a smaller paved road, then a 2-lane road, and finally, a narrow dirt path deep into the woods. The farther we went, the darker it got, and the truck was always there, just 2 headlights in my rearview mirror, waiting. Suddenly, the road ended. A wooden barricade blocked the path. A sign painted in red read, "Dead end." We were trapped. "Turn around," my girlfriend screamed. I shifted into reverse to make a U-turn, but the truck behind me didn't back up. Instead, he whipped his steering wheel hard to the left. He pulled his truck sideways, completely blocking the narrow dirt road. It wasn't a U-turn. He was boxing us in. He sat there, idling, blocking my only exit back to civilization. I saw the silhouette of the driver inside. He wasn't moving. He was just watching us panic. I looked at the barricade, then I looked at the trees to the side of it. There was a small gap, a ditch. "Hold on!" I yelled. I slammed on the gas. I didn't go backward. I went forward. I drove off-road, bouncing through the ditch, branches scraping the side of the car, and bypassed the barricade. Behind us, I saw the truck turning. He was coming after us. We were now on an unmarked dirt path in the middle of nowhere. I reached out and killed my headlights. "Why are you turning off the lights?" she screamed. "So he can't see us," I whispered. I drove in the moonlight, dust kicking up behind us, taking random turns, praying we wouldn't hit a tree in the dark. For 20 minutes, we drove blind in the dark. Finally, in the distance, I saw the glow of highway lights. We burst out of the woods and scrambled up an embankment onto the interstate. The truck was gone. He must have lost us in the dust. We made it home safely. But I know one thing for sure, Sirtum. That orange detour sign, I checked the construction reports later. There was no construction on that highway. That sign wasn't put there by the city. It was put there by him. He waits for travelers to lose signal. Then he guides them off the road, into his own private trap. So if you see a detour sign on a lonely highway, think twice before you turn.